Hey, welcome. Ralph Covert here at Waterdog, talking about songwriting, something that I love more than just about anything in the world, and I'm glad you're watching because that means you love it too. Now, I use a method of writing, not for all of my songs, but kind of as a foundation for a lot of the writing I do, that I recommend you try. Not mandatory by any means. However, I found it to be very effective, and it really solves a lot of the hurdles and obstacles that seem to come up in songwriting, and at the same time will allow you a process by which you can grow and learn and develop as a songwriter while removing most of the stress from the process. That's a pretty good plan if we can make it work. So let me talk about my three-tape method. I've talked about it in some other videos as well, but I want to do a really deep dive today and show how to use it and how not to use it, and also explain some of the reasons why I think it's so effective. So, as you can see, at its core, it's exactly what it says it is. It's a three-tape method. Now, I use one of these old-fashioned cassette players. Why? Because the technology isn't going anywhere. It's not going to have a new upgrade, new operating system. It's always going to be available. So songs you've worked on for years are still going to be accessible for you to work on. Secondly, it's not going to crash in the same way that your phone could crash or your computer could crash, losing all of your valuable ideas. And this has happened to more than one professional songwriter. Major label dude has lost his iPhone with all of his song ideas on it. And that's no good. So one of the nice things about this is it's not going to be wiped out in some kind of a digital disaster. The third thing about it that's really great is, as you'll see as we do it, it's going to create a workflow that allows your ideas to develop and grow at the same time that your skills as a songwriter are developing and getting better. And then a fourth reason is that it's technologically simple. Okay? One of the things that I find that's a real problem, and I've got a lot of, I've got some nice recording equipment here and stuff, but it's not good for writing songs because it requires plugging stuff in and setting levels and kind of using my engineering brain, and there's all these obstacles to get set up, right? This, very simple. It plays and it records and it stops. Forward, reverse. Not much to it. So I don't need to think about it, okay? So if I have an idea, I just hit record, boom, I put it down. Now, in my three-tape method, there are names for the very discrete entities for the three tapes. The one in the middle is, let's start there. This is called your work tape. The work tape starts its life as a blank cassette. And I just recommend getting your just average chrome or normal bias tapes. Don't have to spend a lot of money on it. Don't need to get some kind of fancy, premium oxide. You're not dealing with high fidelity here. Just want a good, solid tape. And these cassette players go for, 30, 40 bucks online. You don't want to spend more than that. Something real simple, little. And you don't want the mini cassettes. You don't want the mini cassettes that they use for meetings and stuff, because the fidelity on those is just too crummy. So you really want to go with just getting your basic standard cassette, standard $34 to $40 cassette player. Your first tape is called the work tape. Starts its life as just a blank cassette tape. Your work tape is where you dump everything that you're working on. Work tape, get it? Working. So if I have a new idea, boom, I put it down here. If I have a song that I've been working on and I'm stuck, I'm not sure where to go with it next, I put it down here. If I have just a chord, I'm noodling on my guitar and I come up with this, I like that chord. I'm going to put it down on the tape and fiddle around with it and add it. So the work tape becomes an ever-increasing random pile of your ideas, unfinished songs. Now, people say, well, I could use my iPhone for that. And I do use my iPhone some for stuff. So I'm not saying don't use your iPhone or your smartphone as a tool. I don't always do it, but I try to then play back those ideas and get them onto the cassette, and you'll see why they become part of that process that we're going to talk about. If they just end up only on your iPhone, as happens to some of my ideas, they're stuck on the iPhone and they get excluded from this process. But I don't always have this in the car when I'm stuck in traffic, so the iPhone's a good place to put it. Back in the day, I would have to use an answering machine. There's a famous story where I was touring in Europe and had an idea for a song, and this was before smartphones, and I didn't have a recorder, so I ended up making a long-distance credit card call from Holland to my answering machine in Chicago so that I could capture the song. We don't have to do that anymore. It's a good thing. So I made some notes here. You have your work tape. Now, when this becomes full, it becomes what I call a source tape. Now, source tape is a full tape. The way you do the process here is you play your source tape. I'll step back for one further second. When you start a work tape, one of the things you do is you put a piece of the sticker on it and you name it. You give it a silly name and you put the date on it. So this one's called Sunny Days, and it's May of 2018. So it's fairly recent. There's Sunny Days. Why do I name it? Because it kind of gives a little personality. If I numbered it, they'd all kind of like blur into like, you want them to have personalities. You want them to feel like, oh, I remember that tape. Oh, there's some cool stuff on that. Okay? Here's why. Your source tape. Now, the way a source tape works is you pop it in to your cassette player, like so, and you play it. Oh, boy. That was funny. So you play the idea back. So you take that idea, pick up my tapes off the floor here. This is why we generally use tables, not music stands for songwriting, but I wanted you to be able to see the tapes. So I take the source tape. I play the next idea on the source tape, and then I learn it. So in that case, it was a very short fragment of an idea. It was on piano. So it's in D. So let me listen again. See what we got here. It's kind of just a little simple groove. So it's so let me listen again. D, E, A. So. I've kind of learned the little idea there. Now, my job is very simple. My job is to take that one idea and move it one step forward. Now that might be in this case, it's a very short fragment of an idea, so I don't have to move it that far. I just might add a couple more chords. Or I might add a melody. I might develop, so let's see. So try things out. Now, as you're writing a song, the way I look at it is when you hear a song for the first time, on the radio or on an album or on a mix, there's a wonderful experience of kind of discovering that song, right? You're hearing it for the first time, you're wondering what's going to come next. It's kind of like it's revealing itself to you, right? So as you write a song, you're kind of looking for that same experience. You want the song to reveal itself to you, and you kind of wonder what comes next in this song. And what do you use to take it to the next place? The thing we've talked about before, your Songwriter Compass. So as you try different things, you use your Songwriter Compass to say, oh, I like that. I like where that's going. Or that's not quite what I'm interested in. I don't like that as much. And so you make a different choice, right? So the first thing I did with I didn't really like. So I'm starting to find my way into a song here. Now here's the point where I'm going to verify that this is indeed a work tape. Yeah, it is. So with your work tape, first thing you want to do when you pop it in is you want to make sure you're at the end of
my neighbors are burning leaves, and I wish that I could try.
Okay, so the first thing you want to do when you put your work tape in is verify that you're at the end of the last idea, that there's blank tape ahead. Otherwise, you might erase over your last brilliant idea. So put the work tape in, make sure you're at the blank spot on the tape. Okay, now I'm going to put my idea from the source tape. Again, my job on the source tape is I listen to the idea, I learned it, and I'm going to take it one step further. I don't need to finish the song. I can go as far as I go before I run out of ideas or I get bored or I'm not sure where to take it. So let's push record play. And one thing I recommend is this is about the statement and the process to do this, because I want to capture this idea as it's still fresh and still coming out of my head. Sitting on the bench and staring at the sun. I was just trying out random chords. I was trying out random words. I was trying melodies, and I was trying to put gibberish random words to them. Now, sometimes you have an idea and you know where you want to go with the song. You've got an emotional center, you've got an idea, you've got a story, you've got something you want to talk about, and that's great. But even when that happens, you'll reach a point in the song where you're some parts of your creative brain are moving faster than other parts of your creative brain. And that's where it's good to just start putting in placeholders. I should put that on stop. Put in placeholders, put in gibberish, now I'm just trying stuff out. I'm not stuck with any of this, right? And I can play around with it. I can try writing some words out. I'm going to get this song as far forwards as I can. I didn't like a bunch of that. I thought there were a couple germs of good things in there. So what I would do is, if I was writing right now, is I would really sit down and I would start puzzling out what some of those words are. At this point, I would rewind it and maybe write down what some of the gibberish words sounded like so that I could use this as a bucket to catch the rainwater. And then take a look at what I caught and see what I could make of it. Now, one thing that you don't want to do, here's a huge no-no. Your source tape is not your new greatest hits album. Do not, I repeat, do not listen to this for pleasure. Do not go listening through the source tape to hear all the ideas you might want to have to work on later and categorizing and organizing. You don't need to do that. Your source tape is at its most valuable to you when you don't know what's going to come up next on it, and you might have even half forgotten or completely forgotten the idea. Because then that idea is coming into your brain fresh, and you haven't learned and memorized the things about it that your Songwriter Compass didn't like. It's still fresh and malleable and soft like new clay versus old and dried like a pot. You can't mold a dried pot into something new. It's already formed and shaped. So you don't want your ideas on your source tape to have a chance to solidify in your mind. You don't want to learn them until it's time to listen to them for the first time on the source tape and move them forwards. So the time you can rewind on a tape is when you're on the work tape. You can rewind and review what you just did and learn it so you can refine it, so you can see what you like and don't like. And like, as I said, if I was actually writing here, I would then take that idea, write some of the words out, try different variations on the chords, of the melody, and push it around until I found something that started to gel into something that my Songwriter Compass said, yeah, I like that. At the point at which I really was running out of ideas, running out of time, starting to lose interest in it, I would make sure I had my most recent version recorded down on my work tape, and I would move on. I'd listen to the next idea on the source tape, and then again, I have to move that one step forwards. Listen to the idea, move it one step forwards. It's a very tangible, very doable thing. You don't have to finish the song. You don't have to but you don't have to think of a new idea either. You've got a whole bunch of your ideas right here. If you happen to finish the song, you put it on your song tape. So source tape, work tape, song tape. The song tape has all of the completed songs. So when I'm finished with it, I will pop that one in and I will record it onto this tape. At the same time, what I do these days is I have my iPhone going next to it on record, so I get a nice digital version that's the same age as the original recording on cassette, and you don't have to go through some crazy, process of getting this into a computer, which you can do, but it takes work, and that could be done on other stuff. So I wrote down a bunch of ideas here of ways that the different steps of the process help you working with the three-tape method. One, because you're not listening for pleasure. This is, you listen to the source tape, take that next idea, learn it, move it one step forwards. Now, a couple things happen while you're doing this. One is you are practicing your songwriting. By listening to that song, by playing around with it, trying new ideas, listening to your Songwriter Compass, you're developing your skills. You're becoming a better songwriter, right? And yet at the same time, the song is moving forwards because that song idea that started as a germ has now advanced a little bit. So there's two things happening at the same time. Your songwriting craft is getting a chance to be practiced, and the song itself is getting a chance to be developed. It'd be kind of like if you went to the gym and every time you did a sit-up, it was not only, or an arm curl, you're not only exercising the muscle, but you're creating these things you could use. They'd be like, okay, let's say you're at the basketball court and like you just threw a shot from the half court, right? And it went through all net. Well, if it was a song and a creative idea, you'd have that thing, right? It's just part of practice. I mean, writing these songs and working on this is just part of practice, but if you accidentally get it right, you'd have a half-court shot to use anytime you wanted. That song idea you came up with while you were practicing, hey, I've got it in my back pocket. Here's my half-court shot. That make sense? I don't know. But idea is you're developing your song while you're developing yourself as a songwriter. Now, what are some of the advantages of the work tape? One is you don't have to remember the idea. You come up with a great idea, you're not, it's terrible having all these ideas in your head because what are you going to do with them? When you got to work on it until the song's done, work on it until the song's done. I'm going to put it on the tape. You don't have to carry it, right? Frees you to think of the next idea and not to stress out about that idea. It also means that you don't have to finish it. It's going to be there. It's going to be in this ecosystem. That idea will be there for you to work on. You don't have to worry about it. It's not going to be lost. It's safe. And that kind of encourages you to come up with more ideas because there's somewhere to put them, right? Some days you have ideas and you come up with new stuff. Some days you're better at working on stuff. I mean, there's some days where I can't think of a new idea as easily as I can, but I can pop in my cassette, pop in my source tape, and I never would have thought of that little rhythm there, that little thing. I never would have come up with that just today. But there it was. So I had to do something with it. I had to move it one step forwards. And so I played around with it. Being able to put stuff on the work tape and knowing it's going into this source tape, work tape, song tape cycle frees you from the guilt of having unfinished songs. Because one of the things that happens with songwriting is all those unfinished songs are weighing down on us, making us feel terrible. I'm such a bad songwriter. I can't finish a song. Well, with this work tape, source tape, 3-tape method, all those unfinished songs are like money in the bank, right? It'd be like if you had a job but you had to spend all your money every day, the first half of your day would be spent with the stress of making the money. The second half of the day would be spent with the stress of spending it all. And you'd feel crummy about yourself if you got to the end of the day and you hadn't spent it all. But then the next day you'd have to start all over again needing to make your money. It would add to your stress. So by being able to put your ideas onto the tapes, it's taking away your stress. It's adding to the sense of, I've got a lot of good stuff here that I'm going to be able to work on anytime I want to. I don't have to think of anything. I've got a whole bunch of my ideas right here. And if your idea runs dry or you don't know what to do with it anymore, you just put it down on the tape, right? It's simple. It takes that stress off you as well. It makes smaller fragments of time valuable. So if I have just enough time for running out the door, but I come up with a little idea, boom, I put it down. I can put a great idea down in 30 seconds and not be late. One of the great things about the work tape is if you're not using the source tape, but you're just putting stuff down onto the work tape, it can really help you practice that idea of jumping off points. And we'll go into depth about jumping off points in another video, but basically a jumping off point is anything, word, chord, music, melody, emotional center, anything that's the initial spark for a song, and then you move on from there, and you like it, you don't like it, based on, but the jumping off point is that first idea. Your ideas come back around, the songs grow and develop over time, so you might hear something in a chorus or a verse years later that you didn't hear the first time around. Or you'll often, when you hear that idea later, sometimes the songs when they come back on the source tape are just fragments. Sometimes they're nearly completed songs, right? It could be a song on here that's 95% done, but I just wasn't able to figure out, it just didn't feel quite right. Well, normally that would, not using this method, that would drive me crazy. I would drive me crazy. I would probably end up going out and playing it in its incomplete form and always kind of regretting, wondering what I could have done better. We'll put it on here. When it comes around, usually what happens is you hear the song, hear the idea, and you're like, oh, I know what that needs. Not this chord, that chord. Or, oh, this word is wrong. And even a subtle tweak sometimes can make a big difference in your Songwriter Compass and really feeling like you finally got a song right. And this takes the pressure off of that, because when it comes back around, chances are your perspective is going to allow you to do it. And that's a great feeling, right? So you're working on some fragments, working on some ideas, you're in the process, you're doing it. A song comes up that's half done or 3/4 done, and you finish it. Dude, I just finished the song. I got a new song. It's awesome. Your fresh ears, when you come back to the source tape, your fresh ears, you hear the best parts of it. And it really gives you good practice using your Songwriter Compass and learning to make better choices. One example of a song that came back round was, this is an unreleased song. I guess it's going to be released now. There's a song of mine called Last 2 Days of My Life. And the original source tape that it was on, just that the idea went on for like 2 minutes. And it was putting me to sleep. I was actually like I remember kind of nodding off, just going, I was like this really whiny, I don't remember. It might not have been that bad, but in my memory, it went on and on and on, and wasn't that interesting to me. And then I did this one little fragment, and some things stay, and some things go, and some things die, and some things grow, and then it went off into this stuff that I just didn't find interesting. And on that particular day, I didn't know what to do with it, so all I did was I just chopped that one little piece out, and I put it onto my work tape. So literally that day, my job of moving the idea forwards was eliminating 1 minute and 50 seconds of stuff that just wasn't very good. But that one idea I thought was really strong. So I put just that idea down. And I remember maybe a year or so later, that idea came up again. That work tape had become a source tape. And I was working on that source tape. And that little fragment came up. And I remembered, oh yeah, this was that idea that was in the middle of that long piece of garbage. And so then I was able to, with fresh ears, hear that bit and say, wow, what can I do with that? So with that in mind, I'm going to play this song and enjoy. It's called The Last 2 Days of My Life. So thanks for listening. 3-tape method. Happy writing. Hope you enjoyed the song. This morning over coffee, I was thinking of how happy I've been with you, and all the plans we talk about make growing old worth all the work we go through. 'Cause love has a way of changing how you and me measure what really matters. I watched you walk around the kitchen, half asleep and beautiful as ever. Wished I could stop time, put my arms around you, keep you safe forever. 'Cause life has a way of changing just when we figured out what should be permanent. And some things stay, and some things go, and some things die, and some things grow. And if I die tomorrow night, I'll be content to know I spent the last 2 days of my life in your arms. You say don't talk about it, as if silence made us immortal. But I'm not being morbid, I'm just memorizing all these moments with you. 'Cause today has a way of slipping by while we plan what to do with tomorrow. And some things stay, and some things go, and some things die, and some things grow. And if I die tomorrow night, I'll be content to know I spent the last 2 days of my life in your arms. Sometimes I can savor every moment in a soft and easy rhythm. Sometimes a month goes by before I lift my eyes up from my problems. But love has a way of changing how you and me measure what really matters. And some things stay, and some things go, and some things die, and some things grow. And if I die tomorrow night, I'll be content to know I spent the last 2 days of my life in your arms. And some things stay, and some things go, and some things die, and some things grow. And if I die tomorrow night, I'll be content to know I spent the last 2 days of my life in your arms. Thanks for listening and happy writing.
Maybe we don't belong together. I won't tell if you won't worry. There's time enough